you a seating assignment so that you have a place to sit. And you don't wander in and you're just like, well, where am I supposed to go? Right. So it just keeps it all tidy. I think that's it. I think that's all my housekeeping stuff that we wanted to talk about. I am super, super excited to welcome an absolutely fabulous designer to the stage. He has been and done so many amazing things. He's constantly in the media. There are some people that are just absolutely talented at promotion and marketing. I'm not the best at that. So I love gleaning from people like this just to kind of get a really good idea of how we can move forward, how we can promote our businesses. It is absolutely my pleasure to welcome to the stage Keith White, AIFD, CFD.
Thank you, Doug. Good morning. He had my bio, and I said, if you read that whole thing, you're going to date me. So I said, just give it all. We'll move on. We have a lot to talk about. And with the convention theme for the Great Lakes Floral Association, Inspire, when you think of terminology and working, with American Floral Trends Forecast like I've been doing for numerous years and now working on that one, for 2023-24, sometimes you have to reel me in a little bit when they said, hey, you can do an event program for us. So I said, oh, good. My love and joy, too, other than doing Tournament of Roses in cars with Pete. So thank you, Pete, for being here and helping me out today again with this. But with the term Inspire and coming up with all these terms of how to get it motivated, to encourage you, to be creative, and inspire you. If you pick up some tips this morning as far as event work goes, wedding work, things that we even have on a daily basis. So when you look at the event business, and I've been involved in the event business for, I hate to say decades at this point, but decades. And I started out in my mid-20s as a studio florist, which is a very popular term nowadays, and we decided to do a rental company. And with that rental company, we started in because one of our customers, and this is always that person that inspired me, she's a great, not still customer, but also a dear friend. And with that inspiration that she gave me back then when I was in my 20s, she said, my God, y'all entertain, you have parties all the time, why don't you have so much stuff, why don't you start renting it? So many people do. She had, the silver closets and everything going on, but it was just like, I'll rent from you, and it took off like wildfire, just from one person inspiring me to say, do a rental company. Of course, then it was 24/7, 365. Did you have a day off? Did you know there was a holiday coming up? No. So that's how involved and how enthusiastic we were with that rental portion of the business. Through the decades of doing event work, I have come to find out that I can work smarter, not harder. So when they said we were going to do and would like you to do an event program, I just literally called Pete and I said, Pete, who's in Grand Rapids that you can think of that has an event company? So he gave me a few selections, and then I looked online, of course, at everything that was going on here in Grand Rapids, which is a very progressive city and very artful and very, the restaurants, everything that's going on in here is very up to date and very modern. And so that was one of the takes too. I had to make one phone call. I called Eye Candy, an event company here in Grand Rapids. I talked to the owner, explained to her exactly what I was doing. No problem. I made my list because of the supply chain issues. I didn't want to show up here and have no flowers and no containers to be up here. I could bring the table linens because I own them and just stand up here with an empty stage. That wasn't the fact. I knew, again, work smarter, not harder. So I called the event company. Like, I travel quite a bit with events. I work with so many different event companies around. And it takes all that pressure off, because guess what? I picked my items out, they confirmed everything for me, told them what time to deliver. They even delivered early, 7 o'clock in the morning. They're going to be here to pick it up after the program. See, all that stress is gone. I used to warehouse everything. I used to do all the table linens, the china, the flatware, all that kind of stuff. And that's why I worked when I was in my 20s. That's why I said 24/7, 365. Now I can take a breath. And that's what we need to do too in our time frame, is how we can partner with other people and even with our wholesalers that can provide us the products, that when we are doing events, that we can look at the big picture and then also tag on, work with event companies, because they're great to work with. One that I've worked with in Fort Lauderdale, Miami area for over 25 years, most incredible. They have 45,000 square feet of rental equipment space, airplane hangars literally full. So they do quite a bit of work. So again, small or large, it doesn't matter with the event company. And that way, if you want to get into that yourself as a retail florist or full service florist, you're welcome to it. And of course, when you take on things, be very, very careful of your limitations of what you might be able to do, staffing issues, and we get back to, with staffing issues, know when the setup is. And I say my first question to anybody is, what is the date? Second question, the venue. Already you know if it's at the No-Tell Motel versus the Ritz-Carlton, you're budgeting. You can kind of get an idea without using that word budget all the time in your terminology. We'd like to work with you on these projects. And what did you have in mind? Of course, here comes the books, right? All the Pinterest pictures, all the Instagram pictures. I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. Then it's cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. How are you going to give your customer that final quote with it? Well, it all has to do with a lot of paperwork, a lot of timing with this. So make sure you're including that with all your proposals, the time that was spent with your events, the site inspections that go into everything. Make sure you do go on site, that you do know where the doorways are, the loading docks, your limitations on height restrictions. We can, as designers, build and build and build things, but how are we going to get it there? And again, with me traveling so much for different events, I always want a workroom space. It's just like coming here to this convention. I had all my equipment delivered, all my props, my containers delivered, the supplies were delivered in the back, and I had a workroom in the back. So most of the venues I work in traveling around, I do want a space, and I stay there. That solves a lot of transportation issues all of a sudden on delivery. So even if you have a space that you can work in, and it might be a studio florist in a small space, work out with that venue maybe where you can work or what you can do on site, and just literally set it up when you can. Timing is so crucial in events. Your setup time. In Houston, there's one particular place that we've worked with for numerous years. And I hate to say it's a revolving door, but it is a revolving door. And there's one event after the other. They give you very small window to set up and a very small window to what we call strike. Get all your stuff out of there as fast as possible. Again, that has to do with staffing. How many people is it going to take to set a venue up in 30 minutes? A lot. How many people is it going to take to strike? Again, at 2 in the morning. Who wants to work at 2 in the morning? Not me anymore. You know, so it's all those aspects of going into event work or wedding work too, is knowing all the parameters that are set by those different venues. Again, get to know the security guard at the venues when you do the site inspections. That's an important person to learn. The church lady that always says, no, 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 what can I do here? You know, so understand all of those people and get to know them by first name. Make sure they have great communication with you. Let them call you whenever, and you can call them whenever you need to. But when you look at those pictures and themes of what's going on in the event business, I brought it down to 3 different themes for you just to give you an inkling of what could be done. So if someone walked into you, and of course the popular, oh, I want the farmhouse wedding, or I want the barn wedding look. Well, burlap and lace, trend-wise, that's been so long ago. The jar, the mason jars, oh God, if they're still doing that, you know, just move on. Get them inspired with a few more things. So with floral designing and also floral trends, you have to look at aspects of where things are going with the barn look or with that farmhouse look, quote unquote now, call it rustic weddings. The different arches, different things that people are getting married under, around, over, beyond. I brought in from the rental company, they call it, you know, the used wood like a barn wood pedestal. But yet we used an elegant and classical urn shape for this one to tie and marry, and I'm always doing that. The transition now of where things are heading trend-wise with it. The actual centerpiece or colorations have a lot to do with it too. When your person is talking about colors, a lot of times we need to be the educator on colorations, not only on styles or what could be done, but the colorations. So Pete and I went through this, I think back fall. You know, we were talking about some event work we were working on, and their colorations, they wanted, and it was kind of strange, this coral color and purple together. And both of us kind of looked at each other, and we were on the phone back and forth with some things on it. And it's how to combine those colorations. So I thought, you know, they really want these 2 colors, but I don't think they work the best together under certain situations. So this was an example of educating customers on color. They wanted the purple, they wanted the coral together, and yet they loved the dried mediums and stuff that are so popular today, like the fan, or the little bit of other dried materials brought into this design. So when you're looking at this particular design, of course, it's the coral. It's more natural feeling to everything. But yet the purple, how can we do the purple and incorporate that? Well, maybe this would be for the church, and then we move on to where the reception's going to be and incorporate the purple in a very bold kind of pattern. So with this one, I brought in, once again, a rental piece. The cage gives us that rustic feeling, the poultry wire, or quote-unquote chicken wire. Dome to it, the cloche. And instead of doing a kind of a standard arrangement or a beautiful groupings of materials with the spray roses, godetia, tulips, things like that, the snapdragons, we brought in the really, really strong purple colorations in the background here with the lisianthus, and I call it the skirt. You know, coming out of that design, bringing the concentric circles around in this particular design, which is kind of based off of a Biedermeier look to it, more of a inspired Biedermeier styling. So we have not only the lisianthus, we have the larkspur. On the interior, we have the purple hydrangea and the lavender roses, which brings the purple color very, very powerful. I always think of that too when you're doing event work, is the impact, and you'll hear me say that more and more and more, the impact that something's going to give. If it's the color, if it's the size, the proportions and scale of things, the cross-back chair, that gives us that country French feeling immediately into the design, and where we're going to incorporate it with a farmhouse table. I had a bride that called me last week, and she sent a photo over of the full garland that she wanted on the farmhouse table and all the floral materials, of course, cascading down to the floor. And I asked Angelina, what size are those farmhouse tables? And of course she said, well, I guess I failed planning 101. She didn't get the size of the table for me yet. I said, no problem, I'll give them a call. Because again, farmhouse tables, some people custom make those. I've seen them very narrow, and I've seen them king or queen size, double wides, I call them in Texas, you know, that we can have room for our floral materials. So again, know your table sizes and how you're going to incorporate these designs. Can it be very narrow, or can we go wider with some things? So one of the things also in incorporating things for even long tables, round tables, the bottle collection that I brought in also for my candy, a grouping of vintage kind of bottles on the wood tray. And here to show you the incorporation of maybe doing larger pieces that have more of a powerful impact from a distance versus someone sitting at a table and seeing all the detail work that you brought in. So yes, they wanted something a little bit more natural, a little bit more organic feeling to the design. So bringing in the bottles with one of this, one of that, again, just looking at all the different parts and pieces, it creates interest up close. So people have the conversation at the table. Oh, did you see the tulips? I've never seen anything like that. Look at this, what is it? So there's some conversation, of course, to talk about the flowers, always in design work. One thing also that's new to the marketplace from Oasis is the Terra brick. And when you look at the Terra brick and designing in it versus a standard floral foam that is greener now, which is midnight, the black, there's a new kind of earthy element brought into it. So it comes in a smaller square, and it has already the dirt feeling, I call it, to it. And it's similar to what a floral foam would be, but more sustainable. And so when people are talking about recycling, like bottles, glassware, sustainability, and things, yes, we can incorporate those into our design work. It's a fun item to work in, and I just gave you an example of maybe just a little bit of the, you know, tulips growing here, and it a little offset piece, some of the larkspur brought in to kind of ground out all the onesies, I call it. A little bit, again, bolder statement like here, but bolder in a smaller format. So consider things like that to incorporate into your table sizes. When you're looking at the bridal party itself and boutonnieres or the bouquets, it's where the color's gonna fall into place on those. So listen carefully, look at their photographs and see. I think today with the modern trend of and where we're headed with design work for wedding work, the scale of those bouquets are coming down gradually. Past few years, and I want to say maybe 4 or 5 years ago at this point in time, I go, is this a wedding or is this a funeral? I saw people carrying the bride casket pieces down the aisle. And it's like, you spent what on the dress? I can't even tell. Why didn't you just wear your underwear and be done with it? You know, why did you go through all those fittings and trials and errors of fitting a dress? You spent what up here? I can't even tell you have clothes on. So again, the bouquet stylings and sizes are coming down. Not that they're teeny tiny anymore, but you can look at some of the royal wedding photos from the past too and see that the stylings are a little bit smaller. So I pulled together a hand tied for you this morning for the colorations. Again, softer colors, the shimmer rose brought in with the quicksand roses, and you can see the brown or beige tones that are brought in to keep the colorations going in this particular theme. Lots of roses in here, once again, styling and size. This would be ample. I always use myself as a bridal format, like for size. You know, if it's gonna be too big for me, it's probably gonna be too big for that bride. So always look at your pictures take photographs. I know you're taking photographs right now of this. So when you are making up your projects, even at Houston School of Flowers, where I teach a lot of different courses, the certification course, advanced courses, we actually have a mirror there in the school. So when people are making it up, stand in front of a mirror and see what it looks like. Have someone take a photograph of it and see what it looks like. You'll know where the size, scale, proportions are something slightly off, or what I call rhythm. If there's a bad note in your bouquet, something like that, you'll be able to pinpoint it immediately. But with the hand-tied bouquets, those have continued to be popular. But I think with the stylings also, the bouquet holders have come into play. A lot of times people aren't coming in like the past. It's hand-tied. I want a hand-tied bouquet. I want a hand-tied bouquet. When all we saw were the stemmings a lot of times, or the treatments at the base of the particular bouquet. So I feel y'all are slighted over here. I'm gonna have to come over here and like stand over here for a moment, right at the corner of the stage. So when you look at the hand-tied versus a bouquet holder, think about what size bouquet holder you're going to use for this size of materials that you're putting into it. You can pack a lot in a bridal bouquet holder, but make sure your mechanics are solid in those. Use like floral adhesive or what is called floral lock to lock all your stems in next to that wet floral foam. It will secure those very, very well. But again, the hand-tied bouquet continuing in popularity, and you can tell depth and design is very important. Even though this is a round-shaped bouquet, it's not just a pure dome. There's a lot of in and out of the different floral materials, and also with the foliages, the hypericum berries that are brought in. A little bit of fern here, huck. A lot of people just think of this as a funeral. So the huck holds really, really well in design work with a little bit of the limonium brought into this particular design. So that's kind of it for that rustic feeling when you have it. Now we get down to more colorations and where people might gravitate towards. And of course, with the American Floral Trends, the promenade section and trend was the #1 for the past couple of years. And we see that continuing in, and I say promenade because that's like the term inspire. When we came up with the word promenade, a lot of that was based off of what came out, and I was so thankful it came out with such popularity, was the show Bridgerton. And you know the girls, because when I had the copywriter doing all the copy for that one, she was saying, promenade? And I said, yeah, look it up, look the definition up. She had never heard of that. And then I started talking about beaux arts, historical things. So when you're doing floral design and also trends, we have to look historically to how those trends gravitate from the past to the future, how we can update those. So beaux arts was one of the key terms I was using. Also promenade, what you walk on, how the girls showed off, and look at the beautiful floral materials they used in that program. How inspiring to the public and to our consumers can television be? How stars can make an impact on a trend. And that's where these brides get inspired, through these photographs, not only through Pinterest and Instagram, but also from you too. If you can update your website, update what you're doing consistently to meet with the current trends or future trends, you can guide your brides or bridal parties into those newer looks and also trends. So with this particular one, with the promenade, we had what? Blush, of course. We had peach, and I heard someone in the design room, if I see blush, peach, and maroon one more time, and I thought, I hope they're not in my program, because instead of bringing in burgundy, I brought it in the table linens. So that was one of the things too, educating your customers. Is burgundy going to work with all those? Because burgundy is going to be a recessive color when you're really looking at things. It's going to turn too dark. It's going to disappear. The program says lights, camera, action, party on. It's all about lighting in your venues too when you're looking at that. How you can educate not only yourself, but the consumer too on colorations that you pick and choose. So this one I decided I'm going to use the burgundy or the deepest, darkest black shading to go into the very, very pale. In Promenade, we saw that there was a buttercream or butter yellow brought into that color palette as the three leading colors, blush, peach, and a buttercream. Buttercream, icing on the cake, right? That made that particular trend. Have y'all ever done that? Like tasted the cake icing? Have to. It's all about the cake with me. So when you're inserting those flowers, you just get a little taste of it. But anyway, yeah. I have a tip about that one too. But colorations and stylings of flowers, we always go back to budgeting, correct? And also visual impact of things when we are designing. So to start with the large one in the back here. Can y'all see from back there? Yeah, the camera. You can see maybe a big ceremony piece. I brought in majority of line flower materials into this design. The hybrid delphinium, groupings of stock. Groupings make that visual impact, not only the coloration, but also groupings of materials. If you start polka dotting things, people call it salt and pepper, you end up with the tossed salad look. And so, once again, from afar, the visual impact is less and less if you use one of this and one of that, evenly spaced. So look at nature and the laws of nature when you are designing and try to keep things more compact from that visual standpoint. So bringing in even tiny flowers like the spray roses or the beautiful garden roses, even wax flower brought in, Genestra, jasmine, number one in popularity, the eucalyptus. You can see all these different elements within that design. They don't get confused or mixed up, but yet you see the beauty or the harmony, the unity of the whole piece itself from afar, and it makes that impact. Also in this particular piece, I brought in the dried, like a leather leaf or a fern that's brought into there. Just again, it's not painted, it's natural. You can paint things, there are painted foliages available if you need to add that coloration into your design. Like this particular one, I just kept it natural. That's how it came. This particular one already was in the bleach color. So I left it. It makes a little bit of difference than us using constantly green on green on green on green. That relief, something new, something interesting, something more on trend when you're designing aspects like this. This particular one is done in a trumpet vase. It has a loamy dish on top with the floral foam in there. I wish I would have had bigger foam, block, you know, the bigger designer block or brick to put in there. If you can believe, this is actually done in 2 small blocks of floral foam. So y'all know my secret now about Tournament of Roses. I can pack a lot into very little bit of foam. So all of this, again, don't be afraid of what you're working in. Just have yourself experienced enough to know transportation issues with this, how you're going to offset this or carry it as one piece. Again, it's trying to get it through doorways if it was one large piece without that separation point. So that gives you an inkling of colorations to keep it softer, groupings together. Styling wise, and when we're looking at stylings of florals today, we're seeing a lot of what would be considered in a crescent shape once again, over our domed feeling, a round mound. How many events have you seen or been to with hydrangea balls and roses and then the phalaenopsis orchids just coming out? Over and over, believe me, I've done many a wedding like that. And I heard someone about also doing the aspect when you consider what you're doing, how many tables are you going to have? And once again, the repetition of what you're going to be doing, the production work that has to go into here. One person told me, with the event company, whatever we were deciding on, and it was a retail florist. She goes, my God, you're killing me. You're putting one of this and one of that and one of that. But I said, take into account, we're doing X number. So this one might get 2, this one might get 1, you know, of these items. Yes, we only need 5 bunches, you know, to make it complete. So do your stem counting too if you're going to do more of a new styling, and maybe have just a couple of the scabiosa instead of 5 or 6 into one. So keeping a crescent shape works extremely well. This one, once again, is done in a loamy tray with a block of foam set on one of the beautiful accent decor pedestals, back again from Eye Candy, their collection of pieces that have been brought in. When we look at mercury glass and all those aspects of the silver versus gold, is their popular one, and I'll just give you a slight hint, and I can't give too much information away because I'll be presenting that as the opening program at AIFD in Vegas, is the trend program, American Floral Trends Forecast. But I'm not seeing a lot of metals. I think we're worn out on gold at this point in time. So even with the accent decor pieces that have more of a wash feeling to it, you don't know quite if it's silver or quite if it's gold. That's going to continue along. I think the pure metallics will start fading. We're going to see a little bit more washes of colors and metallics. So that gives you the hint for colorations, but size, scale, and proportion has a great deal to do with your tables when you are selling these pieces. So budget, back again, that budget term. Do we have enough budget to do all of these pieces? Or did they only have the budget to do this, right? Be respectful of what you can provide your customer with. So if they're expecting this nice look with a little stalk, a little tiny Gerber, maybe 1 rose over a dozen roses, what can be done? Same look, 2 price points, right? Or it can be combined. We do a lot of clustering on tables or a lot of groupings of materials on tables, not just for floral content, but back again, component pieces that work together. So here you can see it takes a little bit of this, a little bit of that, even just some Genester drawn out. It's not your little typical roundy-moundy arrangement in each one of the designs. So component pieces work very well on tables. And Pete laughed last night, and we were talking about, you know, well, guess what? Here's your budget. You flew me in, you had me do all this. This is what I can provide you now with your budget. Y'all get it, right? So, again, candles on tables. Be aware of your venue that you're in with the candle situation. The battery-operated candles, of course, no problem. But any type of open flame, make sure you check the policies and with those. And again, incorporating dried products into your thing. And with that pampas grass craze, I hope that's kind of like burlap and lace. I hope we're done with that one. Move on. And I have to say, those are regional things too. Like where I'm from in Houston, we have pampas grass planted around the freeways. So that's like weeds, you know. Some places y'all think, oh my God, magnolia. Well, that's weeds for me too. So Queen Anne's lace, oh, we cherish it. Well, it's grown in the ditch by my house, by my farm. Yeah, I can plant it, and I planted it and cut it too, but all those general things that people can't get and want to get in different regions. So think about regionality when you're picking and choosing products. Never forget about, I didn't do the other chair, but chair backs are what goes into different chairs. Are you going to do the full spectrum of that venue with chair backs or chair flowers? Yes, I have done it before, and it takes a lot of time. If the chair has a sash and they want a couple of little flowers, back again, the labor that it takes not only to put chair covers on or the sashes on, all those things that are involved with setting up the time parameters that that's going to take you to do all of it. Then we get to even simple items like the napkin. Are we going to have a little flower sprig on there? Or are we going to have a little bud vase by those people to take home with them? The take home or parting gifts for it. So this one, I asked Pete, I said, Pete, will you just make me a simple garland, seeded eucalyptus, a little bit of the Italian ruscus brought into here, then tying on a bunch of ranunculus, backing it with a little bit of the fabric. So this would take quite a bit of time. So know your timing and then know longevity of your floral materials that you're going to place without that water sourcing for your chair backs or any kind of chair that you're going to present at that wedding. The bridal party table, a lot of times those are the two chairs you do, and that's it. And that's good. Always suggest some things too. They might not have thought about it. You can add some high dollars immediately on here. They've paid for the chair rental, and let us make some money too off the florals that we're going to put on or add on to a lot of these items. Bouquets, again, since the softer colors, and I brought in Promenade, that particular one with Promenade had that buttercream yellow, so I continued that trend going with this particular bouquet. We have the beautiful garden roses, and then also with these garden roses, one of the aspects with these, of course, is the price point. One of those sponsors, I had Kennecott, but also Denver Wholesale Florist, and you'll have to see their spaces right around the corner there. John Smith is there in the booth, and he was telling me about a new program they have and set up. So check it out about their garden rose varieties that they're carrying. It's a brand new program, and instead of ordering one bunch or one of this or one of that, he's limited the counts and the numbers of stems you can. Try it out and see what happens with those garden roses. Again, they last a long time. Be careful with care and handling. I've worked with Alexander Garden Roses, one of the more popular growers in South America with those. We also have some great California growers that grow the same patented David Austin roses. And so look at care and handling on longevity. It's very important to read the instructions, like I say in classroom. Even floral foam has instructions how to soak foam. So look at those instructions on care and handling for garden roses. For event work, you can cold chill those, and that's one of the things most people will want to put those in warmer water. They take cold water, put them in the refrigerator with all the packaging on it, then bring them back out to open. They need to hydrate fully in cool temperatures, not warm, because they will open very fast. One of the things, even with guidelines to garden roses, you can see a lot of people have posted day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, even day 7 on how they open. So these particular roses were given to me yesterday, and you can see how they're just barely starting to open. They're not near their full range capacity. So it's for the moment. The wedding is for that moment. The event is for that moment. So make sure your flowers are for the moment and in full spectrum, full bloom. You'll have to use less product if those flowers are fully opened. And so don't think I need this many in this bouquet if these were purely in full bloom. Day 3, day 4, day 5. I want to take this home with me, but I told John I would give it to him for the booth so y'all can look closely at this particular bouquet. So with this bouquet, once again, bringing a little bit of the jasmine to offset, give it a little bit of movement on the outer edge, the eucalyptus brought in, and then once again, the beautiful peach ranunculus gives us another size, scale, and proportion in floral materials that you're combining together. One of my favorite foliages to use is Integrifolia. And I always reverse it because it has that nice silvery edge to the back side of it. And it's an Australian foliage, but very well, I mean, your wholesalers can get that for you. So ask for Integrifolia. Try it out as an addition to all this eucalyptus that's available. And there's so many varieties, the silver dollar, the baby, the gunny, big star with just the seeds itself. Beautiful, beautiful products available out there. And I say that about availability list also from different wholesalers. If you don't know something, order it. Find out what it is or look it up and see how long it will last for you. Be creative with some of the new products that are out there or some of the older products that you might not have ever used before as that kind of substitution for it. So once again, size, scale, proportion, visual balance and physical balance are very important and to design work. I like to always think about the visual and physical aspects of carrying a bouquet. So when you look at the bouquets and gathering the materials up, make sure you do the proper techniques as far as if you're going to do spiraling, make sure you keep it in that format. There is a parallel stem placement or lacing technique. The spiral is what I like to teach and what I like to do the flowers in because it really balances the bouquets out very well when you do it properly, as you can tell up here with this particular one. When someone is holding the bouquet too, it is very comfortable. It's not one of those that fall over. If the cascading bouquet also has gained, popularity. We do more and more cascading styles of bouquets. There's all different ways of doing it if it's add-on, and I don't consider a cascade bouquet being a hydrangea with 3 white dendrobiums coming out the bottom as your tail. Y'all are better, you're smarter. Please be inspired today, okay? If you take that away, you'll always remember one thing, what Keith White said up there. But with the cascading bouquets, there's a lot of ways to incorporate things. Sometimes we have to go back to, I want to say, old school wire and tape methods of doing cascade work. One of the great designers, Gregor Lersch from Germany, does still a lot of wiring and taping of those bouquets that you see online or in Facebook or Instagram, all those things. And it's very cool to go back sometimes to old school techniques of wiring and taping materials for your bouquets. I thought back in the, and I don't want to give that away, but anyway, when I was in my 20s, that was the thing to do. Take ivy and we would wire each individual leaf and recreate this beautiful form. And it's like, what was I thinking? How stupid was I back then? Why didn't I just cut the plant and stick it in there, strip the foliage and put it in water? But no, that's how things were done back then. So again, it's still done today, but with select flowers. A lot of times with callas, things like that you're putting into your design work, you'll want to have, again, some flow with it. It's very hard. If you know how to massage flowers, that works very well too, but also wiring and taping callas to have them in the right positioning if you need to extend them. One wedding that I was doing down, it was in Florida, but they were up by the hoopah, and they were taking the photographs. It was a cascade with beautiful callas coming down, all of this, and the bride was standing there like this. The callas were into her dress, and I'm thinking, oh my God. And the photographer was just clicking away, like this guy's clicking away and clicking away. And I thought, I can't stand it anymore. I'm about ready to have a heart attack here. And I walked up to the bride, and I took the bouquet, and I said, and it was in a holder. And I said, take these 2 fingers, separate them, make this sign, slid the bouquet in her hand, and she held it in the palm of her hand. The photographer came up to me, and she said, in my full career, not has one floral designer ever come up to a bride and showed her properly how to hold the bouquet. She was so impressed with just that one little detail that I did. So make sure your brides and be there to service those weddings in case that happens, and how people can hold bouquets. And again, it's not this walking down the aisle. Relax, girl. It's your moment. Chill out. You know, and be relaxed with a bouquet. Make the bodice of the dress show once again. Have the flowers, yes, of course, be the standout. You know, where the flower's prettier than the bride sometimes. But just have it relaxed a little bit and have it comfortable for someone to wear. And that all, you know, wear and carry, corsages, things like that. It all has to do with you as a professional designer, your mechanics that go into it, your selection of materials that go into a design. Is there a party in the house? The colors tell you already, right? You know you're going to have a good time. If it's a corporate event, if it's a wedding, if it's just a, you know, birthday party or coming out party, whatever it's going to be, there's a party in the house just with the colors. So keeping things, and I have to look back at, and I don't want to say retrospective days of someone even last night commented, my God, they saw this and they were like, your daughter. Just was like, it's so simple. So again, floral design doesn't have to be so complicated all the time. Overthought, you know, what am I going to do? Just take a bunch of Gerbers, tie them up, put them in, call it a day. How many do I need to do? Take a bunch of tulips. Guess what? Cost control on something like this is phenomenal. The profit margin goes through the roof. It's bold, it's beautiful. It's a prime example of knowing when to say yes and when to say no, when to start and when to say stop. Enough is enough with all of this craziness that we put ourselves through in design work. A lot of this has to do with container choices. Also, you can see on this one, I chose a very, very narrow profile. It looks large from the front, but very narrow. And you can see just the groupings, one bunch of Gerbers tied together, one bunch of tulips tied with the silver bind wire at the top, then the aluminum wire at the base. This one, only the aluminum wire at the base of this one. Easy, easy, insert, put a leaf, you're done. It's that simple. Make sure all the floral materials are cleaned up. Then some other examples of things that you might want to float candles in, but again can make a strong statement with groupings of materials and keeping one color. Back again, you focused in on a color over things. Red on red. We put red with green. You think of those two colors and I say holiday time. No. Bring in the brightest pink you can possibly find to offset that feeling. So back again, table linens, other accessories that you're going to put with it really do complement this. So we brought in, I have to say the cocktail, because these are called mojito, hydrangea. That is the variety name of this particular one. The Fuji type of mum brought in with some of the mini monsteras. So back again, size, scale, proportion of your foliage. It's not as large as what the monstera we have up at the top, but looking at groupings of materials. Is it okay to use what we call permanent botanicals or faux materials in event work? Yes, it is. When I carried these down from my hotel room, you would not believe the compliments I got while I was carrying those through that hotel lobby last night. Oh my God, did you see those orchids? I just walked the sidewalk out. Look at the flowers that man has over there. And, I didn't want to say, well, they're fake, Don't use terms like that, kind of. You know what my reply was to all of it? Thank you, with a smile. I didn't explain to anybody what they really were. I walked in, the story continues, I walked into the workroom, and a couple of the designers kind of like, he got everything he wanted. Well, not really, but I made it all work, and they had lots of flowers in the hallway that I pulled together, so no problem with me. If you're a good designer, you can always make something out of, I hate to say nothing, but you can be inspired by just those few little things. So again, with the orchids, even the designers in the workroom were like, look what he got. And I said, well, the ones they sent me were about this big. I said, maybe I could have used them to make a boutonniere out of, but I wanted the wow factor up there. So again, threw these in my suitcase, popped them out, fluffed them up. Make sure you properly open up your silks when you're doing silk work. They come in a box all flattened out. Understand how flowers grow. And then so once you do position those different blooms, and I noticed you had those gloriosas, those beautiful gloriosas, and it's like, yes, Ben, make the bloom in the right direction. They will look real for you in events. Someone told me, if you can't touch it, use silk. And it's kind of a good thing. I've done many, many suspended pieces that the majority of it was permanent botanicals. And some people say, don't use the word permanent botanicals, even though I work with windward for over all these years, and these are windward. It's like nothing's permanent, right? So we want to get rid of it. It gets dusty too. We want to change the trends, change the colors, change. So again, using just even 3 stems with a monstera leaf keeps the theme, the party going. It doesn't have to be overthought, over-designed. Simplicity can be a bold, bold statement. When you look at the vase in the back, yes, we have the oncidiums all grouped once again together, birds of paradise grouped together, 2 separate groupings, monstera brought in. Crespidia back here, I left this one exposed so you can see the difference between the silver bind wire, which is not on the spool this way, it's on a small piece. Take a look at it, utilizing it once again for a metallic feel to your work. Crespidia, same thing, bringing in the bold yellow color with a grouping of yellow Gerbers, orange Gerbers, fuchsia Gerbers, then tying it back in with the red. If you're doing multicolors, I brought in a red table linen. Here is the coloration red once again to bring the red in. Always remember that transition to when you're going with bolder colors, sometimes it can be very, very bold, but the transition pieces that have to happen within it. So this one I brought in a table runner that also has the pink, but also has some red in it. You can make a bold statement by using just some yellow roses, that vibrancy of the color yellow, 1 simple stem of orchid coming out of the sphere, and also some metallino that was curled around in this bias bowl. I've used bias bowls over and over and over again, and they're fun to work in because they're already different. It's the unexpected. It's not a bubble bowl. It's cut at a slant. It has what? The infamous compote stand to it. It's a modern take on the traditional compote, and gives us already, it inspires me to do different things when I'm working in all these different containers that you do pick and choose. If it's an elongated piece like we have, a narrow container, things that are being brought in to give us that full perspective of, yes, the party's happening. I just want to kind of watch my time frame with everything that's going on too, and I think I'm right on it. I'm here for you. That's what I tell people. Message me if you'd like to. I'm here all day today if you have questions. I'm not here to take wedding consultations or event consultations. I do charge for those, but I'm willing to help you along at any way with the educational part of it. I will be happy to answer any one of your questions. And please ask. That is so important to find out correctness and the proper way to do things. I think with my experience over again, and I'll say it, 3 decades plus, even with FTD, I'm probably one of their oldest employees at this point in time, right, Pete? Probably. I've held on for 30 years with FTD, which is totally amazing. And again, with their historic logo, you can see the factor 1910. No, I didn't start in 1910, but I feel like I'm there sometimes, but again, I have the energy, the passion for flowers, as FTD has that branding that's so well recognized, not only here in the United States, but worldwide, with their sponsorship of educational programs and believing in me for that many years. And again, for Great Lakes for inviting me back. And I hope I brought you some warm weather, because I really hated getting on that plane, and it was 86 degrees, and I just couldn't look at the temperature going 17, 20. We did have freezing. I've already had ice at the farm. I've dealt with all that. Talking to different people, I'm like, my God, it's 80 today. It's going to be 32 tomorrow. But I hope I brought you some warmth up here for today, not only with my passion, with the weather, and I hope I brought you inspiration and some detailing on event and party work. And again, Doug, thank you so much. All right. Thank you.